Hi gang, Rob here. It is the afternoon of 15 November 2020, coming to you today with a good old-fashioned knife review on the TheApostleP channel. It is about a 38-degree day in northeast Indiana. Dense clouds, a little bit of rain, 35 to 50 mile an hour winds, and we tried to have church in the parking lot this morning. It was not a good thing. We adapted. And I'm spending the afternoon in the hole behind the camera because it's time. What are we looking at today? Well, this box ought to give you a hint. But before we get into the knife that came inside, something we haven't done in a while, let's do a pocket check. First up, our main blade today is the Gail Bradley Folder, original design with those beautiful desert ironwood burl scales by the disappeared one, Steve Ketchum. And by its side in the bottom of the pocket, the Great Eastern Cutlery. Homage to the 2OT. Yeah. The Washington Jack clip point variety. And on the wrist, yeah, you guys have seen this one before. The Yamaha Superman Heritage 63 is still missing that 12. Sunday go to meet and watch. Let's see. Shall we get to what came inside the box? First, let's look at the box from Hinderer Knives Made in the USA. It's a small box. Inside the small box comes the XM-18 3-inch spear point, stonewash blade and frame, OD green G10 scale, and 20 CV steel. This would be a Gen 6 variety, and the Gen 6 is the reason we're doing a video today. We have not visited Hinderer on this channel in quite a while, and there have been lots of twists, turns, bumps in the road for the Hinderer XM-18 family of knives over the last few years. Here's the knife we're looking at today, and I think the main reason for taking a new, fresh look at the XM-18 is that right there on the end of the flipper tab. That is the logo for the Tri-Way pivot. The Generation 6 XM-18s all have this new pivot. What makes it special? Well, for one thing, that flipping action makes it special. The Tri-Way pivot is kind of what it says. It has 3 pivot suspension devices, all included with the knife, new from the manufacturer. Installed in the knife now is a set of ball bearings, and then inside the box you get this little baggie with instructions on how to access the online instructions for changing the pivot system. And then inside the baggie we get some stainless steel backing washers, which I believe are required to take up the thickness when you remove the ball bearing assemblies, and then a set of phosphor bronze washers and a set of nylon washers. So you can go old school Hinderer on nylon, you can go old school Hinderer upgraded with phosphor bronze, or you can go ball bearing. And the ball bearing pivot, most guys leave in there. It works superbly. Yep. Blade centering is perfect. And let's kind of go over a little bit of my perception of history from the last few years and the XM-18. Back 5, 6, 7 years ago, when the Hinderer XM-18 was a grail knife for many collectors, there was much higher demand for Hinderer products than the supply would satisfy. So a new XM-18 that cost around $400, if you could get your hands on one, you could flip immediately for $500, $600, $700, $800. Guys bought them like crazy, but back in those days, we had the confluence of a bottlenecked Hinderer pipeline and the advent of ball-bearing pivoted flipper knives. And although they were still selling for a lot of money, there was murmuring, there was rancor, there were mobs marching the streets with pitchforks and torches because Hinderers just did not flip as well as many of their modern competitors. So a couple things started to happen. The market cooled, and then Hinderer Knives built a new manufacturing facility and at least doubled their capacity. So a used Hinderer XM-18 Gen 2, 3, 4, instead of being worth $600 or $700 or $800 on the secondary market, started to drop like a stone. Retailers were flush with new Hinderers with Teflon washer, nylon washer pivots. The advent of the ball-bearing flipper was in full force. Secondary market values started to plummet in half or worse. And then Hinderer started to make some adjustments. They, for a long time, kept that nylon washer pivot, and they started to firm up what was a mushy detent. You know, most Hinderers on washers, you know, they would just sort of fall out of the handle, and you had to give them a little wrist action to get them to flip well. So before the advent of the tri-way pivot, Hinderer started to firm up the detents, and then we ended up with a lot of Hinderer knives with death lock, meaning if you had your fingers on the lock bar when you tried to flip it, the knife would essentially lock itself closed and you couldn't get it to open at all. And it was a delicate balance, and it lasted for a few years, and then finally, not only did Hinderer go to the tri-way, or not only did they go to ball bearings, they gave us a choice of everything. Not only did they do that, they also added, and I'm not sure this needed to be done, they added a hardened stainless steel lock bar interface on the Gen 6 knife. So that brings us to where we are now. So let's take a fresh look at the XM-18 3-inch variety. This is the spear point blade version. So the blade thickness is 136, 137 thousandths. It is flat saber ground from about 2/3 of its height down, a nice graceful swedge at the spine. Forward finger choil. Titanium frame lock. This one's stonewashed. Titanium spring clip. And as I said, steel inserted lock face. Hiding behind the clip is the, I don't know if it was ever patented, but it's the Hinderer lock bar stabilizer that stabilizes the lock bar in this direction and keeps it from over traveling in this direction when you release the lock. It works magnificently. Pocket clip is positionable either tip up or tip down for right hand carry in this case. And I don't think they've made a left-handed knife in many, many years. Of course, one of the claims to fame, one of the strongest suits of Hinderer knives has always been the quality of their hardware, which they make all in-house. We have shouldered hourglass standoffs in titanium, titanium cups, or the female sides of those standoffs. The Hinderer pivot, which is a beautifully fitted and threaded assembly. Super strong, super precise, and now with superb flipping action. No stop pin for the open position in the knife. The lugs for the thumbs are they for thumbs? That's always been an ongoing debate. These lugs are the stop pins for the knife. They stop the blade against the titanium frame and the titanium liner, which gives it a tripod effect, right? between pivot, lock bar, and stop pins. It makes it an extremely rigid knife when open, always has been. Machining prowess of Hinderer knives is unparalleled in the knife world. Let's see, what's the competition for this knife? Well, it always has been, hasn't it? The small Sebenza. And just to give you a little bit of a dimensional overview, closed length or handle length on the XM-18 3-inch is 4 1/8. The small Sebenza is 4 inches on the nose. Blade length on the 3-inch XM is actually about 3 1/16 compared to 2 15/16 on this Insingo bladed small Sebenza. You'll notice the Sebenza is just a little thinner in overall thickness of the handle and a little thinner in blade stock. Remember, 137-ish on the XM, about 117 on the Sebenza. 2.8 ounces in overall weight, 3.4 on the XM. So very, very close in weight and dimension and in performance. Ergonomics on the small Sebenza, this is my knife, so it's left-handed. I find them to be superb for a small utility folder. And for those of you who don't know, the forefinger in a saber grip on a Sebenza needs to be tucked all up into that first radius to get maximum comfort and utility, and it's beautiful. The small XM I find is a bit of a poor translation from the large one. The blade doesn't seem to present in as natural a position as does the Sebenza, but still pretty good. It does give you this option, however, of that forward finger choil. In that pinch grip, I find the flipper a little unwieldy. The XMs that I have owned, I have whacked the flipper tab off of, but now with the tri-way pivot, you probably want to keep it. So it's a little beefier knife than a small Sebenza, not quite as comfortable or as versatile in a variety of grips. Both of them are made extremely well, and now that both of them are being produced in reasonable volume, they carry about the same residual value when you go to sell them. The Hinderers might be a little weaker. I think they're generally a little more overstocked than the Sebenzas are, especially now that 21s are extinct, right? But a great little matchup as always. Love the OD green on the XM, and I love the stonewash. The pocket clip, while a little more obtrusive than the Sebenza clip, darn near equal in effectiveness. Just a superbly designed clip. If it has a drawback, it's that it leaves a lot of the knife exposed out of the top of the pocket. I personally have never minded that. It gives me something to grab hold of. In fact, it's just about the thickness of a finger. I got no issue with that. I know a lot of you guys are huge fans of deep carry clips, not particularly me. So yeah, I've always said this about Hinderer in these intervening years as they've developed new designs. I think Hinderer knives are kind of a one-trick pony when it comes to design. The XM-18 is an enduring classic, a work of art in engineering and design. The Eclipse not far behind, but some of the intervening knives, not so much, and I don't know that they sold particularly well. I do like the Jurassic, and I like the new sheep's foot blade in the XM, but this is the best work they've ever done from a design standpoint, so it is absolutely wonderful to see them available with a pivot system that makes them either competitive with new trends or just like the original, or just like the original, only better if you decide to go phosphor bronze. Just a great idea. And I love the fact that Hinderer knives are designed to be taken apart, maintained by their owners, put back together with no trouble. Much like a Sebenza, by the way. I've never liked knife companies, folding knife companies, who make it difficult and discourage the process of owners of their products taking apart, maintaining, and putting them back together. If you make a knife that has screwed together construction and you make it so it's either difficult or discouraged for the owner of that knife to use those screws, what are you trying to hide? What is it about your assembly process or your overall engineering and design that makes that problematic? It shouldn't be, and it is not with these two knives. These are certainly knives to last the lifetime of the original owner and be passed down as legacy tools to subsequent generations. And Hinderer is a company that's been around for a long time, isn't going anywhere. They'll be there to service their product for many, many, many years to come, just like Chris Reeve. So it's kind of a great knife that's been made even greater over the years. And this Gen 6 XM-18 is kind of the pinnacle of Hinderer up to this point. They're doing a great job. That is all for this one, my friends. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, the word is sharp. Talk to you soon.